So, sit however's comfortable and let yourself, if you need to stretch your legs out, if you need to sit up on a blanket, grab blankets. Remember, we have all this stuff. Take advantage if you need it. And just let yourself close your eyes gently. And just for a second, lower your chin down just a little bit and maybe move around with your head, turning it a little bit. Maybe when it's forward, maybe you just want to bring your chin parallel to the floor and turn your head a little bit side to side. Or tilt your head too. You know, if you feel really tight in the sides of your neck, just become aware of your head, in other words, and let your neck try to release a little bit. So that when you do feel ready to just bring your chin parallel to the floor and float your head up with your eyes gently closed, it feels really like your head is just floating up there on top of your spine. And then be with your breath. Watch your breath coming into the belly. Feeling that gentle movement as you inhale and you exhale. And let your face relax and let go through your jaw. If you're comfortable to come in towards those three-part breaths, inhaling into the belly, into the ribs, and then up into your chest. And now start to move a little bit with your breath, letting your exhalations bring you forward and your inhalations bring you back up. And just take your time with it. So your breath might be really long and slow and deep. You might be moving very slowly or maybe a little bit quicker depending on the length of your breaths. So just take your time to follow your own breath. Next time that you end up upright, let yourself stay there so that you lengthen up through the top of your head. Release your hands on out beside you onto the floor. And let's inhale our arms all the way out and up overhead. And let our exhale bring our hands right down together in front of our hearts. And then we'll reverse and inhale our hands right up through the midline. And on the exhale, open our arms on back out. Cross of our legs, if you need to stretch them out for a second before you bring your other leg in front too. And we're going to come back again to following that breath, exhaling our way forward and inhaling our way back upright. So again, it's really focusing on letting the breath move the body. Next time again that you end up sitting up nice and tall, let yourself stay there again. And we'll let our hands come on out beside us. Let's take a nice inhale here. And on the exhale, twist to your right. So your left hand can come around towards your right knee. Let yourself lengthen up through the top of your head. And one more inhale. And let your exhale carry you back around through center and off into the other direction. So Feeling the chin about parallel to the floor. Feel that right sitting bone drawing down towards the ground. One more inhale. And on your exhale, let yourself release on back around into center. And let's lean back a little bit. And I'm gonna mirror you now instead of going on the same side. So what happens when I film is that automatically reverses it. But today I'm gonna mirror you guys right now. So bring your legs over to your left side and think about drawing this knee back, this left knee back a little bit. It's sort of like you've got this figure here where the heel's not way in towards you, but it's out just a little bit so you don't have a real huge deep bend in your knee there. Right. And then from there, twist a little bit towards this front thigh, this right thigh. And then allow yourself to come forward. Now you may want to stay up really high with a nice long back, right? Or it might feel good to continue to move forward over your leg. You can even let yourself make a little pillow with your hands and rest your head on the floor of your hands. And then just enjoy nice full breaths into your low back. If anything's uncomfortable in your knee, reposition by all means. Just let yourself feel the back expand as you inhale. Good. And now bring your right arm out beside you so you come on to your elbow and your forearm and start to reach into a nice long side stretch here. So almost feel like you're reaching that left knee farther away from you. You get really open in the front of your hip. Just take your time, let it feel like the huge opening through the left side of the body. Good, and then turn back towards that thigh, let your hands be on the floor. And we're gonna come on up. As we do, we're gonna swing our legs right on around and to the other side. So again, kind of position how you're okay in your hips and your knees, right? You're already feeling a little open right here. And then when you start to twist a little bit, even more so, you feel a little more openness there in the front of your right hip. And then come on forward and take your time here. Again, use your arms to support you or make a little pillow, rest your head, or go down as far as you want to. Let your head hang if that feels better. And then again, breathing in to the low back. Good. One more breath. Enjoy that release in the outer left hip and the front of your right hip. And then come up enough where we're going to slide again onto that left forearm and open into that side stretch on the right side. So really, again, imagine you're reaching that right knee farther away from you and opening up there through the front of the hip. Good. One more breath. And then as we head on up, again, this time let's just release our legs right on out in front of us and let your legs do little flip-flop windshield wiper blades. You can go same direction or opposite. Do some little leg bounces too. Let's bounce a little bit. And then come on into sitting in staff. See if you can let your hands reach down, feel your heels into the floor. Feel nice and open across your chest here. And take a nice inhale. And on the exhale, let's twist towards our right this time. So coming on around into your twist and lengthening up through the top of your head and feeling your heels on the ground. Feel your hamstrings as you press into the balls of the feet. One more inhale. And on the exhale, we'll come on back around and all the way into the other direction in that twist. So again, heels equal on the floor. Pressing into the balls of the feet a little bit. Good. One more breath. And then as you exhale, coming on back around into center, separating your feet out a little bit wider, and then come on forward to just get a little bit more there in the backs of your legs. So it doesn't matter how far. You can slide your hands to your shins. You can put your hands on the floor if you want, or your toes. Right? Just be mindful. Let it feel like a nice release for the backs of the legs, the inner thighs. Waking up the legs a little bit more. Good, and then we'll come on back up with our hands here now, and we're going to bring our legs back forward and come on around towards our hands and knees. So if you do not want to be on your knees, grab your blanket. You can have your hands on a blanket too. If you have, issues with your wrist, feel free to come into fists, or feel free to go to your forearms if you need to do your cat-cow. So just be mindful and take your time and just play a little bit. Like, as you come through your cat-cows, take time to appreciate each pose for a breath or two before you move on, right? So at first, like letting yourself find your cat and or your cow and staying there just to be able to really feel how the body feels in the pose. And then once you start moving a little bit more, really bring your awareness to that suppleness of the spine. Feel the tailbone initiating. And let yourself just flow up through the spine, coming into either your cat or your cow. Good. And then finish off the one you're on. We'll come on back to more neutral spine. And let's send our right foot behind us on the floor. Curl your toes under and press into the heel. Really let yourself feel the back of the leg, your calf. You can readjust that left knee just to even think about rising that right foot up. So adjust to where when you start to float the right leg up parallel to the floor, it feels okay. See about reaching your left arm forward as well into that balance. And now just lower your toes and your fingers to barely touch the floor of your left hand and your right toes down. And then when you inhale, lift them back up if you can. So again, exhaling, letting the fingertips and the toes just lightly touch, and then inhaling them back up. We're going to bring the hand and the knee back down to the floor, and right away send our left foot back on the floor. Curl the toes under. See if you can feel like you're really equal through your hands. And again, just in anticipation of lifting the leg up parallel, then you might need to kind of adjust that supporting knee. And then if you let that left leg float up easily and bring the right arm forward easily, finding that length there, find your belly working, and then lower the fingertips and the tips of the toes back to the floor, and then inhale, rise them back up again. So exhaling, letting the tips of the toes and fingers touch. And then inhale, rising back up. This time we'll put the hand and the knee back down. We're going to shift back into pose of a child really easily now. So whether you need to keep yourself up a little bit so you don't go all the way down to your heels with your bottom, right? You just do what you can. And take your time. Let your elbows be soft. And you're welcome to bring your arms back too alongside your legs if that feels even more releasing for your shoulders. But let it be a resting child's pose. Just feel the breath coming into the low back. Good. One more breath here. And then let's stretch our arms out overhead, long here. Really spread your fingers wide. You can check your hands out if you need to look at them. Make sure they're pretty even up there. And we'll come on up to all fours, curl our toes under, and come on into a downward facing dog pose. So once you're in your dog, take your time, walk a little bit. See if you can let yourself really release the heel down towards the ground of that straight leg. And give it a breath or two before you switch. So you're really allowing the calves to get a really nice long stretch there. Good. Elbows hug towards each other. Get that sense of reaching now equally back through your sitting bones. And imagine you're pressing your feet away from each other like you're trying to widen your mat with your feet. At the same time, you're hugging your elbows in towards each other. Good, and we're going to come on down with our knees from here, and let's bring our left foot forward and come into our first lunge. If you like your blocks, you can have blocks underneath your hands, any height you want to be, and take your time there. Let your shoulders draw down away from your ears. Get lined up with that front knee. Make sure that knee is not coming farther forward than your ankle. And just enjoy. Press the feet gently away from each other like you're trying to lengthen your mat with your feet. And we're going to switch to come to the other side. So however you like to come, whether it's stepping forward or back, take your time. And again, really enjoy. Feel the feet in the mat. Imagine you're trying to lengthen your mat. Feel that sensation all the way up into your hips. Good. Let's switch again. Now this time, see if you can, start to reach your left arm forward and up by your ear, right? So you're actually like finding this really long line down the side of the body. Good. We're going to bring that hand back down and we're going to switch again to the other side. So getting into your lunge where you feel very stable and you're able to reach that right arm forward up by your ear, pinky turning down, thumb up. Finding that full length through the body here now. Good. And then bringing the hand on back down. We're going to step forward into standing forward bend. So be really mindful. If you have any kind of issues that you need to support your back, use that support. If you need to put your elbows above your knees, or if you need to keep your back long by hands on the blocks. And then just breathe. Easy breaths. Let yourself accept those full deep breaths, feeling the ribs expand when you inhale. Imagining the top of the head getting closer towards the ground when you exhale. And then from here, we'll let our hands come up to our hips. We're going to bend our knees and rise on up to standing and inhale our arms out and up overhead. And let our exhale bring our hands down as the top of the head reaches up towards the ceiling. Coming into mountain pose. So play a little bit with shifting forward and back in your mountain. A little towards the balls of the feet and then a little towards your heels. And then see if you can center out there and try going a little bit left to right. Not very much, really tiny little swaying motion. And then come on back to letting yourself get centered out now. Front to back, side to side. Enjoying your mountain pose here. And then as we unfold our arms down beside us, really feel your feet equal in the ground as you inhale your arms out and up overhead. And let your exhale bring you forward into that standing forward bend. And on your next inhale, find a nice long flat back. However you need to put your hands, on your legs, on your shins, on your blocks. And we'll step the right foot back and come into lunge. And inhale. Exhale into a downward facing dog pose. So spread those fingers nice and wide. Really find your dog here now. Let your head turn a little side to side so you release your neck. You kind of look under one arm and then the other. Good, and we'll come on out to a plank here. And then from here, let's lower our left knee down to the floor. We're going to come into a little side plank variation just to warm up a little more. So use your left foot like a kickstand and open into bringing that right hand to your right hip. And you can stretch that right arm up. You can lift the right foot off the floor if you want to as well. Coming into that side plank variation. And then we'll put the foot down and put the hand down and come back to plank. Walk a little bit in your plank. Bend one knee at a time if you can. Let yourself stay a little higher with your hips maybe than you normally do in your plank. And then come on back to full plank. We're going to do the other side. Right knee comes down. The right foot is like a kickstand kind of. Bring your left hand to your hip. You can stretch the arm up, and if you want to float the left leg up too. So just really feeling that sense of the strength through that right arm and shoulder. And then we'll bring the hand back down, the foot back down, coming into our plank, and we're going to lower down from here. So, you're welcome to put your knees down first, Or come through a push-up, coming down to the floor. And let's come on into a Sphinx. Elbows under the shoulders. Spread the fingers nice and wide. Bring your gaze there between your hands. And just enjoy, really, letting the front body open up. You don't have to go that high, you know that. You don't want to feel discomfort in your back at all. And then from here, let's come back down. Bring our hands by our chest. Hug your elbows in towards each other. And then draw your elbows down towards your waist, which will let your head and chest maybe float up a little bit. So a little tiny Cobra. Try to just let your body do the work here without using your hands. You can even float them up a little bit. And then if you want to go higher, go ahead and bring your hands down and press on up into your Cobra pose. Elbows are still a little bit hugging in towards the ribs. And then we're going to release to come all the way back down. And we'll come back to down dog from here, whether you come through a half or a full push-up, or maybe you want to shift back to your hands and knees and back to down dog. And we'll bring our right foot forward to come into lunge here. And then we'll come all the way back into standing forward bend. Right to your breath. You know, support how you need. If you like to hold your elbows, do. If it feels fine to you, remember feeling your sitting bones over your heels. Accepting those nice, full, deep breaths. And really do imagine that your inhales and exhales are equally important. And we will release our hands back up to our hips as we bend our knees and rise on up, and inhale our arms out and up overhead. And let our exhale bring our hands down together in front of our hearts. Let's inhale our hands right up through the midline and bend your elbows. Bring your hands behind your head and hug your elbows in towards your face a little bit. And then just press the back of your head into your hands. Your elbows will rise up a bit. Make sure you're not tucking your tailbone up under you. Feel your feet equal in the floor. One more breath there. And then start to bring your gaze more forward again. Stretch the arms up overhead. Interlace your fingers. Send your pointer finger up. And feel your elbows hugging in towards each other. So you've got yourself like really easily with the shoulders down away from your ears. And then let's go over to the right side. Let yourself come into a left side stretch there. So just breathing into that side. And then coming on back up to the top, and we'll go over to the other direction. And then we'll come on back up to the top from here. Take a nice inhale. And on the exhale, release your hands, fold forward, coming into your standing forward bend. Let your next inhale lengthen out your spine. And we're going to step left foot back and come into lunge. And inhale. Exhale into your downward facing dog pose. Let's inhale out to plank. And we're going to do another side plank. This time if you want to do a full one you can, or you can put your left knee down and do what we did the first time, or you can come into a full side plank on your left hand. And then we'll come on back through center, and we're going to go to the other side again. You can put your right knee down. Take your time, be where you can. And then we'll come on back again into plank, and we're going to lower down again, knees first if you choose, elbows right by the ribs. And let's come on up into a Cobra, and you can stay low here again, or you can press into your hands and come up higher. Totally up to you. Really enjoy feeling those elbows hugging in, letting yourself open through the front of the body. And we're going to shift back towards child's pose from here. So let yourself come on back. Let your arms stay overhead for a breath. Good. And then we'll come on back to all fours, curl our toes under, and come back into down dog. And we will step our left foot forward to come into lunge here. However you need to get there, remember, put your right knee down if you need. And then we'll come on back into standing forward bend. Right to your breath again. If you are able to, slip either just your fingers under your toes, so your hands are kind of on top of your feet, but your fingers, the tips of your fingers are under your toes. Or you can lift your feet up and slip your whole hands under your feet, palms up. And that's not for everybody, obviously. So only if that feels really good to you. You can press your toes into the heels of your hands and release your wrists that way. But don't do this if it bothers your back. Use what supports you need. And then just breathe. Easy, full breaths. And try to enjoy the weight of your head. How it brings more space to your spine to let that head release and hang. And then we're going to release our hands back up to our hips, bend our knees, and come on up to standing. And inhale our arms all the way out and up. And on our exhale, bring our hands down together in front of our hearts. We're going to unfold our arms this time, clasp our hands behind us. Let yourself take a nice inhale here. And make sure your hands are right there. Make sure you're not tucking slightly underneath you with your tailbone, right? That was exaggerating, right? But think about the tailbone reaching down towards between your heels or a little behind your heels. One more nice inhale. And on the exhale, bend your knees and come on forward. Now, you're more than welcome to stay parallel to the floor. You can fold forward over your legs. Whether your arms will come off of your back at all is up to you and your shoulders, so you be where you can. And then we'll release our arms on down. Let your next inhale lengthen your spine. And exhale, right foot back to lunge. We're going to move with the breath. Inhale. Exhale into your downward facing dog pose. Let your inhale bring you to your plank. And your exhale will lower you down. And inhale into your cobra of choice. And exhale back to down dog. Inhale. Exhale, right foot forward to lunge. And inhale. Exhale to your standing forward bend. Bend the knees, rising all the way up to the top of the breath. And let your exhale bring you forward. Inhale into that long back. Exhale, left foot back to lunge. And inhale. Exhale into that down dog. Let your inhale bring you to your plank. And let your exhale lower you down. And inhale into that cobra of choice. Exhaling back into down dog. Inhale. Exhale, left foot forward to lunge. And inhale. Exhale into your standing forward bend. Bend the knees, rising all the way to the top of the breath. And let your exhale carry you forward. Inhale, nice long back. We're going to come into down dog. You can jump or walk your way back to your down dog. Take your time when you get there. Wag your tail a little bit. Loosen up in your dog. Really let it feel good. Do what feels good to you. Play a little bit in your dog. Good.
Had too much coffee. I'm not. Should have stopped at my son's house to go in.
So take your time. We're going to come in and feet a little closer together in our dog. And we're going to bring our left leg up in the air behind us. Let yourself come into elbows hugging towards each other. Left toes facing down towards the floor. And then we'll bring that left foot forward and through. And we're coming up for warrior one. You might want your blocks handy here. So adjusting that back foot as you come rising on up. See if you can let your hands come behind you, but see if you can bend your elbows. Maybe hold your wrists or maybe even your elbows back there. So you feel really open here across your chest. And in warrior one, your tailbone's reaching back slightly on a diagonal line. You're not trying to tuck that tailbone up under you, but you do engage your belly to protect your back. And see if you can come into a couple of three-part breaths here. Inhaling into the belly, into the ribs, and then up into your chest. Good. And then release your arms on down. We're going to reach the arms forward, rise them up, clasp your hands together, bend your elbows, send your pointer finger up, and hug your elbows in a little bit towards each other. And you may want to stay right here. You might want to lift the elbows up with them bent and come a little bit more into a little more of a back bend in your warrior one. Or you might prefer to keep your arms straight. That is totally up to you. Remember, if your shoulders bother you, it's fine to keep your arms forward of your ears. Be where you can. Feel that lift through the front of the body, that release down the back of your body. And picture very much balance between your feet, your legs, and your hips, right? And one more breath here. And then as you bring your gaze forward, bring your hands right down through the midline, bring back into prayer, hands right in front of your chest. And we're going to release our arms, hang them down, back again to behind us, and we're going to straighten that front knee out and let ourselves square our hips. And then as your thighs lift upward, we're coming towards pyramid pose here. Now, you can do reverse namaste hands back here if you want to. You can hold a wrist, you can hold your elbows. Try to stay as long as you can with your arms up. Even if you don't go very far forward, keep the legs working. Imagine almost like you're leading with your chest. Nice flat back. One more breath. And then bring your hands on down to whatever support you like, to the blocks of the floor. If you need to, readjust a little bit in your feet and your legs in your pyramid pose, do. So you're trying to be fairly level. Just for a second, put your left hand back there up on your sacrum and kind of make sure that you're not dropping too much into that right hip. And feel the hips kind of leveling out, right? And then you can put your hand back down. If you like to fold over your leg, by all means do. You can bend the elbows and fold. You can lower the hands down more. You can turn your fingertips towards your back foot if you like doing that, and your shoulders. And then just breathe. Good. One more breath there. Now, if you're folded, come up more parallel to the floor. We're going to release that back heel. Find a lunge here. And you might want a blanket because we're lowering that right knee down to the mat. And we're going to press into the top of the toes here. So the idea of really opening here in the front of the hip, and if that means for you, you can come up higher and that feels fine to you. You can come up higher on your blocks or hands up to your thigh to give you support. If you feel like you want to go farther, you can bring your hands to your heart or bring your arms overhead. And you can clasp your hands up there if you like we just did in Warrior One, or keep the hands separated. Or don't put them up at all, right? Stay here if you need to with your hands down. Letting that front of your hip open up. One more breath. And then bring your hands on down to blocks of the floor. We're going to shift our hips back and come into a straight or left leg and just extend our torso out over that front leg. So getting a little more into the hamstring there. Letting yourself enjoy. Kind of press into the ball of that left foot like you're, drawing your heel back but pressing forward with the ball of the foot. Like you have on a high-heeled shoe, really. And then go ahead and come back forward. This time we're going to lift that back knee up and come into lunge. And you adjust into a twist you want. If you want to bring your right elbow across to your left knee and bring your hands into prayer, you can. Or you can just bring your left hand up to your left hip, keep grounded in your right one, and stretch your arm up. So you find the twist that feels good for you. Lengthen through the entire body here. So you have so much space in your spine like right now as you lengthen out through the top of your head and back through your inner heel. And then we're going to bring our hand on back down and come into our lunge, and then we'll make our way back into downward facing dog pose. Walk through to the tops of your feet a couple of times, pressing into the top of the toes. And then let's all come out from our dog to our plank. Let yourself get to the place where you don't have to move your feet when you do that. Come back to dog again. And then we'll do it one more time. Inhale out to your plank. And then exhale back into down dog. And now if you want to do more of those or add a back bend, go for it. Coming out to your plank, you can either go through chaturanga or you can come right from that plank to an up dog. And coming back into down dog when you want. Do as many of those as you want. If you don't want to do any, don't do any. If you want to put your knees down and rest, put your knees down and rest. Take your time. Good. And finish off so that we can meet back in down dog. Feel your hands if you need to look at them because they don't feel quite equal. See if you can get your hands evened out. We're going to bring the right foot up for three-legged dog. Flex through the foot. Toes face down towards the ground, elbows are hugging towards each other. And really, sometimes if you feel a little off and your hands being not equal, just a tiny bit farther apart can be helpful. We're going to bring that foot on forward and through. We're coming up for warrior one again on this side. So, getting into your feet and your legs, kind of get everything situated there. So that when you bring your hands behind you, whether you just want to hold a wrist or hold your hands, whatever works for your shoulders, but then it feels good, right? You can feel really easily, just really open across your chest. You're not forcing anything. And very easy to feel 3-part breaths here. Inhaling into the belly, and then into the ribs, and then up into your chest. Let your heart slow down a little bit if it's pounding a little. And then we'll release our arms on down, and we're going to rise the arms forward and up. And from there, clasp your hands together, and at first put your hands behind your head, press into your hands a little bit, rise your elbows up if you can. So you're supporting your head. You're feeling the feet in the floor. It feels really good, actually. It engages your core when you press your head into your hands like this. And then again, as you start to look forward and bring your hands up and see if you can send your pointer finger up. If you need to separate your hands, do it, right? You can stay looking forward. You can bend the elbows again and try to lift the elbows up a little bit with the hands together if that feels good. Or you can come into straighter arms, hugging those elbows in towards your head. Enjoy coming into your warrior one. One more breath. And then as your gaze comes forward, release your arms this time out beside you, bring them behind you again. And now you might have to adjust to get your hips squared off, straightening both legs out for pyramid. Once you start to aim forward with the torso, feel your thighs lifting up towards your hips. You don't even have to get parallel to the floor to be working the heck out of your legs. You go as far as you can without putting the hands down. And then when you are ready to release your hands down to either blocks or the floor, use the height you want. Adjust again if you need to. Sometimes, again, when the hands get down, you feel like you want to adjust a little bit there with your legs either farther apart or closer together or wider or less wide. And now this folding over that front leg is totally optional. You can just bend your elbows a little bit maybe and come a little. You might decide you want to stay up longer without folding over. And just allow the breath to help you find a little more release in the backs of your legs. Good, one more breath. Now when you start to head back up, remember we're going to bend the front knee and find lunge. And if you need that blanket to put your knee down on the mat, grab a blanket and let yourself bring your knee down. Press into the top of the toes there. And again, it doesn't matter if you lift up or not. If it feels good for you to find a little bit more by bringing your hands up to your thigh, if it feels good to bring your hands to your heart or let your arms come overhead, remember it's fine to stay right with hands down and really enjoy coming into opening the front of the hip there. Good. And one more breath wherever you are. And as we bring our hands back down, so we're going to shift our hips back, that front leg straightens out, and we think of extending out over that front leg, and it's like the middle of your body comes out over the inner leg, really. And you're just coming into releasing the back of the right leg a little deeper. And remember, be mindful of that knee you're on. So if it's too much to shift your hips back towards the heel, don't do it. I mean, stay up more and come forward more over the leg instead of more deep into the bend of the supporting knee. Good, one more breath. And now we're going to come forward, bend the front knee, lift the back knee for that lunge. We're going to find our twist of choice. Remember, You can bring your left elbow over to that right knee, bring your hands into prayer if you like that twist, or keep your left hand grounded. Bring your right hand on up to your low back, coming into your twist there, or reaching that right arm up. So be mindful. Let the twist feel like a relief, really, not like a struggle, right? And then we're going to bring our hands on back down, and we're going to come on back into downward facing dog pose from here. Once you're in dog, get comfortable, get your hands right, look at them if you need to. Bring your feet a little closer together, lift your right leg up in the air behind you, bend the knee and open the hip. Look under your right arm. Imagine somebody's drawing that right knee up on a diagonal line away from you. Good, and then we're going to lower that right foot on back down and go to the other side. Left leg comes up, knee bends. It's like you're stacking your left hip on top of your right. You can look underneath your left arm if you want. Let the right heel descend so you get the most in that leg. And then lower the foot on back down. And again, if you're ready to come out into a plank and move through for a back bend, however you choose to do that, you can, but you don't need to. So you can come through vinyasas or kriyas. You can put your knees down and rest in child's pose if you prefer. Good. So finish off, especially if you're doing something that was on one side and the other, so you even yourself out. So we can meet back in down dog. And this time we'll bring our left foot forward. We're coming up for warrior two. So take your time, line your heels up here in your warrior two. Reach your arms out for a second and circle through your wrists. Let your hands circle around, all right? Easily. And let the hands kind of be higher than your shoulders so it feels like you can melt your shoulders down a little bit. Good. Let's bring our right arm under our left to give ourselves a hug. So as you do that, you can stay in that hugging or head into your eagle arm wrap if you choose to, sending the backs of the hands towards each other. Totally optional, you know that. Think of finding release in your shoulders. Feel that left knee coming out over the center of your foot. And we're going to release the hands on down and inhale the arms up into warrior two arms. And turning the left palm up, let's inhale, reach up towards the sky. And on the exhale, come into our side angle, forearm onto the thigh, swing that right arm up. And now we're going to come right back to warrior two. Let your right arm carry you right back into warrior two. Turn your left palm up again and inhale, reach up. And on the exhale, come into that side angle, swinging that right arm up. And then let the right arm continue to bring you back into warrior two again. One more time, turn that left palm up and inhale. And on the exhale, we'll come into that side angle, and we're going to stay this time. So coming into your side angle, if you decide you'd rather put your left hand lower down onto a block or floor, you can. Lengthen out through both sides of the body. Draw your outer left hip back so the knee is still very much lined up. Good. One more breath. And we're going to come on back into warrior two, pressing those feet away from each other. And then let your hands come down. We're going to turn our feet more parallel for a wide-legged forward bend. So adjust your stance a little bit and then make your way on forward. Bend your knees. Let your hands come to either blocks or the floor. And then once you get your hands down and supported, go ahead and bend one knee at a time and straighten one knee out, as long as it's fine for your knees. Just take your time. Ease your way into finding those inner thighs. Good. And then just set yourself up. When you're ready to come back into getting those feet more parallel and allowing yourself to come into the pose, whether you decide you need to keep your back long, so your hands or your forearms are kind of out in front of you on the floor or on blocks, or maybe you like to go ahead and bring your hands towards between your feet or onto your feet. And then, really, just think, nothing you need to do except breathe. You're set up. You can really let go through your upper body. Feel those full deep breaths in and out. Good. One more nice, deep, full breath. And we are going to walk ourselves back out. We're going to walk back to our left foot to come back into lunge and make our way back into downward facing dog pose. So you again are on your own for either vinyasas or kriyas or resting how you choose. So be mindful. Take your time. You can move quickly. You can move slowly. There's no right or wrong. Do what feels really good to you. Good. And then finish off. If you're doing something two-sided, make sure you finish on both sides. We'll meet back in down dog. And this time we'll bring our right foot forward, coming up for our warrior two. So again, lining those heels up. Let the hands come kind of high and circle your hands around a little bit. You might even wiggle your fingers a little bit too. Like kind of do a little hand dance and, you know, feel really good moving through your wrists. And then bring your left arm under your right. Give yourself that hug. And again, whether you head in towards a half eagle or eagle wrap is totally up to you. You can let yourself come into a wrap. You can let yourself stay hugging. Find that release through the shoulders. If you're in your wrap, if you can let the elbows float up but the shoulders float down. And then we'll release, let the arms come on down, and let's head all the way into long warrior two arms. Reaching out through the fingertips, feeling the shoulders softening down. Turning the right palm up, we'll inhale, reach up towards the sky. And on the exhale, come into that side angle and swinging that left arm up into line before it brings you right back into warrior two again. And we'll turn that right palm up and inhale, reach up. And on the exhale, come into that side angle again, letting yourself again feel the left arm carry you back. And one more time, inhaling into that reverse warrior. And on the exhale, coming into your side angle. Again, how low you go is up to you. Bring yourself into feeling that length through both sides of the body, drawing the outer right hip back. Good. One more breath here. And now turn to look at the floor. Find lunge for just a second, okay? Let that left heel release behind you. And then we're going to walk around into that wide-legged forward bend. Now keep walking all the way over towards your left foot. Once you get your feet adjusted, go all the way over, and you can either be in front of your foot or hold on to the outside of the ankle. If you can put your right hand on the outside of your ankle and put your left hand on top and just draw yourself over there. And then come on back, walk through center. We're going to go the other side. Totally optional. If you want to put your right hand on the outside of your ankle and your left hand on top of your right hand and draw yourself over. If that's too much, don't do it. Keep your hands in front of your leg. Keep your feet and legs equal. And then we'll walk back again. Get your feet pretty parallel. And walk your hands out like you're doing down dog. But let your hands be farther apart than in your regular down dog. And imagine pointer fingers getting parallel to each other. And then let your heart just kind of sink downward towards the ground. And just breathe here, really opening up here into the upper back. And then release to walk your hands back as you set yourself up to stay in the pose for a few breaths. You decide, traditional, hands between your feet. Maybe some of you want to walk your hands way back behind you. You're more than welcome to walk back through your legs if that feels good, or use support in front of you, blocks under your head, under your forearms. And just start to be okay with simply following your breath. And if something helps you to keep your focus on your breath, if you have a mantra. If you like to inhale, thinking the word so, exhaling, hum. That focus can keep you there with your breath. One more nice, full, deep breath. And we'll walk our hands back out. We are going to walk back to our right foot into lunge and into downward facing dog pose for last vinyasas or kriyas if you want to do any more, right? If you want to, you can come for more planks, up dogs. You can put your knees down and rest. Good. And finishing off, we'll meet back in down dog again. And then let's just let ourselves separate our feet wider, bend your knees and walk your hands back. Now, you can come on down into a squat if you want to. If your knees and hips tell you not to do that, you can put your elbows above your knees so that you can find a release. You can squat however you choose. You know, if you want to squat with your feet further apart and turned out, you know, and you're able to get your heels down that way, do. But just be mindful. Let it feel like the best release for your hips, your low back. Good. We are going to slowly come up. So bringing your hips up, bringing your feet underneath you, getting your feet parallel, hips distance apart. And go ahead and come into your standing forward bend. One more full deep breath. And now let your arms be like wings. As you bend your knees, press into your feet and rise up, arms coming out beside you and up overhead. And as you exhale, hands coming down as the top of the head gets higher and higher, really. You feel like you've grown an inch or two. So feeling that sense of coming into however you need to come into your mountain pose, if you need to move around a little bit to do that. Enjoying the space around you. Maybe being aware of your heartbeat, feeling your breath coming in and going out. And once the body's aligned, it's really like you could stand here for a very long time. It's easy. And then we'll go ahead and release our arms on down beside us and shake out, move around however you want. We're going to bring our mats into a wall because we have plenty of room. So Beth, you can move over a little, and Charlotte, you can be there, and you can decide if you want to be here or if you want to be over here by your mom. That's fine. Just let yourself. We're going to stay, so bring everything with you. Have your blankets and your blocks in case you need them. And let's bring our left hand to the wall, and we're going to come into a little tree pose. All right, so move through your feet a little bit. Go ahead and press into the tops of the toes a little bit, and get a little, not so far away from the wall that your arm is straight, your left arm is straight, but the elbow is bent somewhat, okay? And then let's shift our weight onto our left foot and bring our right foot in. Whether you like to put your foot below your knee or if you like to bring your foot up into your inner thigh, take your time and keep your left hand on the wall for a second. And bring your right outside arm up overhead. And now we're going to come into reaching the right hand towards the wall, coming into side stretch. Now, you might, depending on how far away from the wall you are, even be able to rest your head in the wall. But see if you can let your left arm then just hang down. So you're supported either by your fingertips or your head and your fingertips. Let the hip open up, release there. You can feel the foot into the inside of your leg. You can breathe into your right side. And then bring your left hand back to the wall, come all the way up, and now keep the right arm overhead, slide the left hand up higher, and see if you can release and come into a balance here in your tree pose. And if it doesn't feel easy, don't worry about it. Put your fingertips back on the wall. If you need to come down and adjust, do it. If you're like, I don't want my arms up there because my shoulder feels terrible doing that, then bring your hands to your heart and adjust how you need to. Good. One more breath. And then when you're ready to come down, releasing your way on down. Take care of that leg you're standing on as you start to turn around and go to the other side, okay? So take care of that one. Get yourself a distance from the wall where you think it'll be okay to do that side stretch part. And again, left foot comes in. Now again, it can be below or above your knee. Keep your right hand on the wall for a second. Bring your left arm up overhead. And then lean towards the wall and let your fingertips touch the wall there above your head. And if you're able to let your right arm hang, it just is such a release for your shoulder just to hang it. Really just feel that weight of that arm. And then breathe into your left ribs. So let the wall support you. Let it feel really good. Nice. Now put your right hand back on the wall to rise back up. Keep the left arm up there if you can. And then slide the right hand up the wall too. And again, see if maybe you want to try to release and come into your balance there. And again, if you feel unsteady, don't just, put the hand back on the wall. Put the foot down, bring it back up again. Readjust if you want. Bring your hands down if you prefer. Good. Nice alignment and tree. One more breath. And when you're ready to come down, take it easy. Let yourself release. Come on down. Walk around a little bit. Let your hips do what you need. If you need to do these little hip circles, do. Like a hula hooping kind of feeling. And then, this should actually also release your hips. We'll come on down, let our toes touch the wall, and come onto our forearms and shift our hips back just a little bit. So you're not coming like you're all the way going into child's pose, but your bottom is kind of up and you're letting your ribs kind of melt down a little bit and release your hips there. And then you can see about lifting up and finding your dolphin pose with your heels up the wall, which in itself will probably feel pretty good after that. So just reach back through your sitting bones, draw your elbows towards each other. If you don't feel like you're in the right place for your shoulders, come down, change how far away from the wall you are. And I know some of you are itching to go further and put a foot up the wall. So if you're there and you feel comfortable to rise a leg up, you can do one leg at a time. You can do both legs if you feel like you want to come up and get more into a 90-degree angle at your hips. You are more than welcome to do that, to come towards practicing for forearm stands. And I know a lot of you in here do forearm stands, so if you do want to turn around and use the wall to help you and come up into a forearm stand that way, you are more than welcome to do that. Or just rest in child's pose when you want and go up when you want into either a dolphin or that preparation of the legs up the wall. And rest how you need to. So if you know that for you, resting, it feels better to get your head above your heart, you can sit up with your bottom on your heels if that feels good. So sometimes just going up more than once helps. And sometimes you're like, well, no, it doesn't because I'm tired. So, do what feels good. So take your time. And when you're rested enough to come up to sitting, we're going to bring our legs on around in front of us and stretch our legs out. And do those circles of your feet, little wiper blades, of course, with your feet if you like. And if you like those little bounces, let yourself release. And we're going to come into a little bit of a Heron Pose here. So let's all do our right leg, bringing our right leg in. Now, if you wrap your right arm kind of all the way to hook underneath your thigh and lean back a little bit, that automatically, you got to fire up because you're not rounded here. You're really straight. Now, you have the option of folding your leg up under you. If you like that better than keeping the leg long, do it. All right? And then send the foot up a little higher so that it's parallel to the floor almost with your calf, if you can. And then you can decide, well, I want to reach down and get my foot. It feels pretty good. You can let the thigh is actually sliding a little bit towards your outer right rib cage, and that'll enable you really to bring the knee back a little more. And then, of course, whether you come into a straighter leg, bringing your gaze up over the top of your foot is up to you. So you can keep the knee bent and get a lot out of this pose. You do not have to come into a straighter leg. Press the ball of the foot gently into your hands and let yourself feel. Really, try to feel the pose more with the length of the spine than thinking about the back of the leg. Right? Good. So one more breath here. And now you're going to bring your left hand kind of to the outside of your right leg. I mean, this leg can be low. You don't have to have it high. And we're going to twist, bringing our right hand behind us, either just lightly touching the ground, or if you choose, letting the arm float up. If you got the wall back there close enough, you can put your hand on the wall, which feels really good. But just take your time. Let yourself press the leg gently into your hand a little bit so you come into the outside of that right leg. Good. One more breath. And now bring yourself back to center. Put the right foot on the floor and just fold a little bit forward. Let your back release, right? So you bow your head, but you can also round your upper back a bit. And then we're going to rise up and we're going to switch. So, again, right leg can be long. It can stay long, of course. If you hook your arm all the way behind your thigh and kind of pull that thigh up in towards the outside of your ribs and lean back a little bit, then you can decide, well, I do want to fold this leg up under or I don't, right? Different leg, different knee, right? And then again, if you feel like holding on to the outside of the big toe mound, you're holding on at the big and little toe mound there. And again, lengthening through the torso, really. So again, more than thinking about, you don't want to lock your knee, right? You don't want to feel a pulling sensation at your hamstring right here where it attaches at your sitting bone. So it's fine to keep the knee bent, but keeping that lift in the body and bringing yourself into looking up a little bit helps do that. Beautiful. One more breath here. And now for that twist. The right hand comes somewhere on the outside of the leg or the foot. The left hand just reaches around behind to put your fingertips on the floor. Or maybe again, if the wall's there, it really feels good if you can lengthen your arm long and touch the wall. But just press your leg gently into your right hand. It's an amazing twist, actually. One more breath there. And then as you come back around, help yourself by letting that knee bend. And then again, just bow your head, round a little bit. You can move your head around too, whatever feels good. And then come on back to bring your knees on up and your feet here in front of you. And we're going to do a little boat pose. So if you feel like you're a little too close to the wall, you might want to move out. And then hold on, whether you hold separately behind your thighs or you like to clasp your hands and walk your feet back. So this is the same exact thing we just did, right? You are lengthening as you lean back and think about lifting your feet up off the floor, flexing through the feet. And that might be enough. You may go, okay, I've had enough that I just want to stay right here. I can feel my belly and my back working. You can, big time. sometimes when you let go, you almost clench here in your hip, front of your hip. So if that happens, try to kind of let go again. And sometimes straightening the legs out a little bit helps. It helps you release a little more in the front of the hips. And of course, if you can get your feet, that actually even allows you more to be able to release the front of your hips. But of course, we can't always get up there to our feet, right? So you can keep the knees bent maybe and hold on and kind of imagine you're pulling your ribs towards your thighs. There you go. Nice. And then put your feet back down to the floor. Open your knees out into a little Baddha Konasana. And if it's a relief to come forward, by all means, let yourself come forward. All right. So whatever feels like the biggest relief for you, do it. I know a lot of people really like to bring their head down towards their feet, and I know that rounds us in the upper back. There's all these different opinions about, what we should and shouldn't do. And kind of in my opinion, if it feels like a relief to you, especially after what we just did, then it's okay when you come forward from your low back to round somewhat then in your upper back, right? Good. And we're going to release to come back up. And you can use your hands to draw your knees up because it feels so good. And if you want to roll down to come to your back, you can. If you feel like you don't like doing that, don't do it. So let yourself come down onto your back however you want to get there. And once you're there, let your right knee come into your chest. Extend your left leg down long on the floor. And just enjoy. Flex through both your feet a little bit. Press your leg gently into your hands there. And then we'll switch and bring the left knee in. Extend the right leg down long. And again, just gently feel that left leg coming into your hands. Good. Now let's switch again. So you got the right leg in. Lift your your left leg a tiny bit up off the floor. Just a little bit. And kind of let it go up and down. Almost little bounces. Little tiny. Like you're going up and down and up and down and up and down and up and down. And then release it all the way back to the floor. And we're going to switch legs again. So once you're there, let the right leg float up a little bit. And then that's kind of like a little bounce, but it's not a heavy bounce. But up and down and up and down and up and down and up. Just so it feels kind of like a release. Good. And then release the leg back down. Let's bring both knees into the chest. Let yourself just hug them in for a second so the low back releases to the floor. And then bring your feet onto the floor and set up for a little bridge pose of choice. Now for your bridge pose, if you're like, I'm so had it, all I want to do is get a block and get up on the block and be supported bridge, do it. Or you can bring your arms alongside you, whether you bend your elbows or you like to leave your arms long. You can lift on up into bridge pose and press into the backs of your arms and use whatever feels good. If you can get your hands underneath your hips and that feels good, you can slip your hands underneath your low back and give yourself support that way. You can use 2 blocks if you want to underneath you. You know that's really a good feeling. And of course, if you know that you want to come down and then move on back up and come into a full upward facing bow pose, a full back bend, by all means, feel free to do that. Or stay supported if you want to. And play in the support however you want to do that. Good. Just remember to be mindful when you come down. So I know some of you are coming down, and when you do, don't rush. If you're still up, stay up. But if you come down, be really mindful to allow yourself to release, bringing your knees into your chest. Maybe a happy baby for some people. Some people that's a little too much. If you want to know the truth, you've got to find for yourself, especially if you did a really deep back bend, how your body needs for you to counter that. You know, some people like to go right into a plow pose too. I mean, again, for others it's just too much. So take your time. Maybe your body needs to do a little twist here now. If you feel like you want to let yourself ease your way into any other pose or movement, now's the time to do it. But just take your time so that I'm just getting the lights first because it takes me a bit to get all this done, and then you let yourself be mindful about what your body might need. If for Shavasana, support sounds good. You know, you've got the wall there. If anybody wants to lie with legs up the wall, they can. If anybody needs a bolster for underneath knees or under your back. So like if you feel like you'd like to have some support on your spine and let your chest open, I'll be happy to bring you. I've got these little bolsters. You can also use a blanket that way. Let me know if you need an extra of anything. So I'm still walking around. Settle in, just take your time. Those of you at home, I am running out of battery here, so I am going to finish off. You can stay in Shavasana as long as you choose.